All right, so I'm going to go on a bit of rant here. I was doing an equipment test to try and make editing this whole process go a little smoother. And I just got done working on Carcassonne, the big box expansion, the last one. I don't want to bag on that too much, but this is just one of the most recent examples of why I'm getting disenfranchised with this hobby. Don't get me wrong, I love this hobby. I really do. A little bit of background on this, on me. When I'm Barry Reynolds, first off. Don't know if I mentioned that. Welcome to what is kind of a gateway gamer. It's not the same thing it started out to be. It's just a journey of my journey through the board game hobby. So I started this back in 2013, I think, 12, 13, something like that. I got into the hobby, modern board game hobby, a few years before that. I met my wife, and they played board games we go down the shore. They played board games with the family once a year or a couple times a year, something like that. And so at Christmas, I was out looking for a board game for my wife for the day, the board game days they had. And I came across Corkle and Pandemic, and I grabbed both of them. And Pandemic opened me up to the world of board gaming. It opened me up to things I didn't know board games could do. Prior to that, I played Risk for a little bit with my brother, kind of. We'd go a couple days, and just play hours and hours of it. When I was a teenager, and mass-produced kids games, stuff like that. Just, Strategico when I was a bit younger. But Pandemic opened me up to, it was the first co-op I ever played, and it just blew my mind that board games could have that mechanic in it, that mechanism in it, and how it worked. And I was headlong into that. Since then, a few years after I got into the hobby, my mother got cancer and died. And again, down the shore, what I noticed is I'd be there with my sister, my wife, and my sister-in-law sometimes, or brother-in-law, or whatever. And we'd all be sitting around the table, and they'd all be on their phone playing a game. And they could even be playing the same game with each other, sitting across from each other at the table, not talking to each other. And I decided, all right, it's we got to do something about that. And it helped me and my sister grieve, I think, and then later on, I had some physical stuff, and I used the board games through recovery with that. Actually, Pandemic Legacy was one of them. I was basically quadriplegic for a few months. It doesn't matter. The point is, I used board games throughout my recovery, both mentally and physically. So I love the hobby. I'm grateful for it, and I'm thankful for it. I met tons of people I would never meet. Actors, game designers, actors, voice actors rather. I already said actors. Scott Alden, especially Scott Alden. So I'm grateful for the hobby, but getting back to Carcassonne, I've been in the hobby long enough. I've seen cycles go through. Kickstarter is one of the biggest problems to the hobby, in my opinion, and it has been for a while. It's brought very innovative things to the hobby, but it's also brought a ton of greed and just, I call it money grabs. They're half-baked games. They're not developed long enough. They're just throwing them out there to get money. It's constantly. And the quality of board gaming has, in my opinion, dropped dramatically since I've been in the hobby. There are still great games out there, but they're very hard to find anymore. Through the wave of nonsense that comes out every year, like thousands and thousands of board games. And getting to that money grab thing. It's got to the point where I am doing a video on the big box Carcassonne. Okay. They did a second edition a couple years ago, before this was printed, to update the artwork and all that. And I understood that. You know, I understand the game's 25 years old, 25 years old, something like that. I had the 10th year anniversary edition. They have many expansions. It got a little convoluted. I understood them doing a second edition. I figured they would fix all this convolution of the rules out with this second edition and this big box, and apparently they did not. This is the money grab part to me. This game, like I said, is 20 years old. This second edition is, I think, came out in 2015, 2016. So it's at least 6 years old. It's a German game that's written in German rules. I understand that, but it's been in America for at least a decade, 15 years. You know, the rule book for this is an embarrassment to what a rule book should be. That is the front line. You know, that's the first thing, other than the artwork on the box, that people pay attention to with a board game, is the rule book. So I don't understand how they could screw a rule book up like they did in this big box edition, the 2021 version of it, this big box 7, I think it is. All right, they have, just an example, and I don't want to pick on them too much, because this is throughout the industry, I think. But there's a version for the River expansion in this big box game. And the rule description, the setup and all that they gave for this is for a previous version of the River. They talk about a double wide starting tile with the spring on it. It is not in this version. I've seen it in other versions of Carcassonne, like Carcassonne Amazons, and it probably maybe the 20th anniversary. I don't know. I haven't seen that one. It is not in this version. There's 12 river tiles in this version of the game. In the rule book, they say there are 18, all right, including that double wide thing. This should not happen. I understand, like I said, it's a German translation thing, but it's been in America and it's been in English for over a decade, 15 years, you know. This is a game that's been around for that long, so there is no development on this whatsoever. There is minimum cost to reproduce this game, you know. And they gouge people with the cost of it, and it's half-assed. And that is throughout the industry, I think, especially with Kickstarters. But it's not only Kickstarters, but a good bit of them are in Kickstarters. I've seen, even on the social end of it, the media end of it, the reviewers play a game once maybe and then give a fucking review on it and say it's great or horrible. I mean, come on. Some of these people are playing, I got many reviews this month as I played 30, 50 games. You know, that's not fucking playing. That's just going through the motions, trying to get some kind of, you know, something to talk about. And it's not all of them. But when I started this, there weren't many people out here. That's why I started this. I saw a guy in front of a wall, games like this, like me, right now, reviewing games. But I was new to the hobby. I didn't understand them. Nobody was showing you how to actually play them or showing you a game of them. At the time, Rodney Smith was very new. Richard Ham maybe just came out. I mean, Tom was around, Lance was around, you know, the Dice Tower, sorry, and the Undead Viking, I can't believe I forgot this, Lance's, and Scott Nicholson. But I think at the time, Scott was in the same situation I am now. He was just getting out of it. I believe I caught his last video. when he actually uploaded. I could be wrong on that. It could have been before that, but he was in the same thing. If I remember correctly, he actually said in that video, there are hundreds of games coming out every year, and the hobby's changed. These are not the games that I like. And I'm not totally with that. I still like the board games. I won't turn a board game down, but I've played thousands of games, and I can see a lot of similarities, and I can see the laziness in the designs in them, and that's the big thing. A lot of people are just throwing miniatures and big plastic, a pretty artwork on a game that's nonsense. To begin with, just because they're going to get $50 out of you this time. And they know people are in that FOMO thing where, all right, the next time they'll get it again because somebody will talk about it. All the big guys will talk about it. Every time a big Kickstarter comes through, every big reviewer you watch has that game, and they're talking about it. So all these other games, like Powerline here, it has no problem, and it's not for everybody, but nobody's heard about that. Instead, you hear about the latest Kickstarter that's not going to come out for 3 years, and it's going to be half-assed when it does come out. There's that. The social media end of it, like I said, when I started, I got veered off from it. I'm sorry. I'm a little stoned. I'm a little bit of pain. But like I said, there was Rodney and Richard Ham, Rado, and Tom and Lance. But these people start this with a passion for the board game, and eventually the business came along. The money came to them. They built up an audience. Now, there's reviewers who expect to get paid, and they made 2-3 videos. There's all sorts of shady shit going on behind the background with Kickstarter and review. It's nonsense, and that itself, all of the drama that I've exposed myself because I know some stuff behind the scenes, and because there's been a lot of stuff that's been out in the social media that's been buried for years and then rehashed, and it just, the community of it's changed, and that's another reason I'm getting disenfranchised. If you post on Board Game Geek or the forum and you're looking for an opinion, there's constructive opinions, and then there's just trolls, and that's what a lot of I see in the forums is just people. They want to shit on a game, and then they want to shit on you if you like the game, or if they think you're playing it wrong, or if you don't understand something. There's that. But in there is still that diamond of the community. The community has problems, but I think it's still strong, and it's a good community for the most part. That's why I keep going in and out on this disenfranchised thing. I stopped the videos years ago because of physical problems. I just couldn't do it anymore. Tried to come back once again, and then the physical stuff happened. And then I was talking to Scott about some stuff in the BBG store about some abstract games that didn't sell in the store that he thought he would. They were interesting games. And I noticed none of them had a video on them, so I said, Scott, let me try to get back in the swing of this. Try to get back to the community that, like I said, I love so much. It gives me so much, especially Scott. So I did it. I threw it up. Didn't think none about it, but at the time, but in the background, it's, I enjoy showing people what I learned, and if I could help you out doing it, I will. So I slowly started, filming my collection here, just so I can remember myself how to play them. It wasn't even for community. And me and Scott had a discussion about that, and I told him that I don't really care about the community in a sense. Like, If you comment on the video and it's constructive or something like that, I will respond to you if I see it. But I'm not on the computer. I'm not on the internet that much. Once a week. Now loading these up twice a week. I'm on Facebook a couple times a week, sometimes every day, but it's only like 2 minutes. It's not long. If you see me on Facebook, it's usually because I'm filming or something. I'm not on it. It just comes up when the browser comes up on this computer. And I don't go on this computer but once or twice a week. So I won't ignore you if I see it, if I'm aware of it. And if I do ignore it, I'm sorry, if I hurt your feelings, but I didn't see it. It's not my wheelhouse right now. It's most of what I do now is for my recovery. Trying to get my hands and mind back, my body back, and that got me thinking what this guy said, and I see where he's coming from. I think he was a little disappointed, that I said that, and I understand that. His whole thing was building community, and it's kind of a shame I feel like that, but that's where I am right now. I go in and out of this, like, is this a waste of time? If I throw it up, do I want to go through all the nonsense of the trolls and all that? I could just put these up private, and come back and reference them later. And but I don't think, like I said, if I can help somebody, they can figure it out doing it, fine. But I do have hope for that. It's like I'm hoping all this it'll settle down. It's eventually. Chaz Martyr said years ago, the bubble's going to burst, and eventually it has to. Throughout the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen cracks in the bubble, but it hasn't burst. There's too much out there, and there's too much garbage out there. And I'm not, if you like a game, I'm not trying to trash on it, but there's a lot of garbage out there. And the trolls just latch on to that, and it's everybody just wants to be shocked or whatever. And that's not what this is about. It's not a. I'm not trying to shit on the hobby. I'm not, like I said, I love the hobby. And I'm not looking for, to cause outrage or anything like that. I'm not even trying to, I'm not even looking for vindication or anything like that. Basically, all what this is me asking, as a grateful lover of the hobby, for publishers and reviewers to fucking do better. Just don't throw out a game that's half fucking baked and you can't understand the goddamn rule book. Don't push a game that's half baked and you can't understand the rule book because you're getting cash for it. If you're reviewing it, it's the stuff I've heard that goes on behind the scenes, just the vultures, money-hungry vultures attacking the hobby in so many different ways, is just unreal to me. But that's the world we live in, and I know I sound like an old fart, but I think we can do better, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm hoping we can. As a board game hobby, I think we've got past a lot of this nonsense we got past before in the hobby. When I started, it was all dudes. It was all white dudes. Women started gradually coming in. They started complaining about the exploitation of women characters in certain games, or the lack of women characters. We adjusted to that. People of color come in. We adjusted to that. What we were either unaware of, or whatever in the board game hobby that offended them. There was a lot of uproar during it, but it's how things work here in America. We overcorrect and then we adjust, and somewhere in the middle we come to a happy medium. The hobby is progressive in a lot of ways, you know. But there's also that dark fucking side to it that I can't stand, you know, that greedy money grab. And like I said, the hobby could do better. So, sorry. Like, I want to try and keep this happy, and I'm going to do this for a while. And if you want to come along, I'm more than happy for you to come along. Like I said, if you break me and I see it, I will respond to you. If you're not being a dickhead. Alright? You know? And believe me, I won't look at everybody as trying to be a troll. I do try to look at both sides. I believe I do. You know, I was a union member. I had to do, you know, but anyway. That's all. Just fucking do better. Please. Publishers, reviewers, please. Get gaming, have fun. See you next time. Gimpy out!